Pharaoh, the people. Come on, come on. Come on, Titus. Titus. Titus, come here. He's not a bottle baby. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. Hello and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. This is Beryl, and that over there is Titus. It's a little bit windy today, so we're gonna work with what we've got, which is a windy day. It happens very often here in springtime. But I bought a new thing, and I want to set it up with you guys and kind of show you another option for containing goats on your homestead. So we recently converted half of our chicken run into this alternate goat pasture, and it's going to be really helpful for us during breeding season, and also it helps us use all of the land that we have in order to feed our goats. We have a lot of really flat land here, and it's a lot of pasture. It's not a whole lot of trees. And yes, goats really do prefer things like trees and browse, but when the goats, they only have the option of eating grass, they will absolutely graze, and that's been our experience. So because we had a lot of stuff laying around, converting half of our chicken run into an alternate goat pasture didn't cost us anything. We had extra lumber even for their little goat shelter in there, and we already had this extra gate built into the pasture. So this was essentially free. It was just sweat equity or sweat labor, sweat cost. You know what I mean. This pasture over here was a little bit different. This one is the same size as that one. It's 100 feet long by 50 feet wide. I believe the goat shelter parts were free, just reused from what we had here. But we bought all of the T-posts, we bought all of the lumber. These are cemented in. This whole pasture was $1,000, just about. We took one whole roll of sheep and goat fence and basically made that the size of this pasture. We let the roll of fencing dictate how big this pasture was gonna be. And the rolls of fencing, when we bought them, were about $300 per roll, and then the T-posts and all that. It does kind of add up, and this kind of thing is really great, but it's stationary. So when we run out of grass in here, we can't really do a whole lot about that. So because of the wind situation, it's pretty intense here much of the year. I have really not wanted to deal with any kind of portable fencing, mostly because I don't really want to deal with some kind of portable housing. So the housing part of this new little pasture that we're putting together, that is still in the works, and we're still thinking about what to do for that. But we are going to extend these boys' pasture with Premier One electric netting, which is cheaper than a standalone fence like this. It is smaller, but the fact that you can move it around means that we can utilize much more of our land and of our pasture. So our dairy does have about 6 acres of our land in order to move around in. So they've got most of it, but there's still all of this area back here that is designated for our house when we build our house, but that is a few years away yet in the very least. And so every year we mow what our goats can't access because they can't eat. So the hope is this year we'll be able to move around some goats, even if it's just a couple bucks or a couple meat goats, into separate areas around the farm and be able to utilize more of our land and maybe mow a little less and spend a little bit less on feed. But for today and for now, we're actually just going to use the fencing initially to extend out this pasture that we have 2 of our main bucks in. This is Hamish, over there is Havoc, and they've eaten down the amount of grass that they have in there. Woo, here comes the wind. And so I want to bring them out into this area here, still give them access to this pasture, this water, and this shelter, but expand the amount of grass that they have access to. right, so it actually says right on the front of this thing, fence voltage. Oh, Hamish just touched it. Aw, he ran right for his house. So that's on the front end. So the Energizer is connected on this side, and I need to measure the voltage at the end of the fence to make sure that the voltage is making it all the way around. So it's obviously working on the front end. Let's check the other side. And we need to multiply what's on the screen by 1,000 in order to get the volts. Did it bite you? Are you okay? Did it bite you? Aw, you're all right. He did run straight for his house, which is what I had hoped. So you're really supposed to train animals to an electric fence within another fence. So this is a psychological barrier, while the woven wire fence is more of a physical barrier, and you're supposed to put the psychological barrier on the inside of the physical barrier that they're already used to, so that if they kind of freak out and happen to run through it, you still have them beyond the physical barrier and they can't get out. So my hope with this is that by having this next to a pasture that they're used to, when they run, they'll run right where they are used to being. And he did, he ran straight to his house. Poor buddy. So let's see, I'm supposed to stick this probe in the ground, and then this one tests the voltage. Yeah, this is good and hot. It's reading at a 6.6, which means we have about 6,600 volts going through. Like I mentioned before, we only need 3,000 for it to be effective. So what I'm gonna do, I've got a leash just in case something catastrophic happens, but I'm gonna open up their gate, let the boys come out here and let them test it. So I know that if Hamish happens to freak out and get out, that I can catch him. Havoc is another story, but again, the hope is that they'll just run straight back into what they know, which is their other pasture. So hopefully this doesn't go catastrophically wrong. Oh, he got it again. Oh, that poor goat. Oh, Hamish, I'm sorry. Yeah, it works. And one of the reasons that I pulled the little babies out of here is I really don't know. I need to do a little bit more research what size goat is appropriate for this many volts. The little pamphlet that came with my Energizer kind of freaked me out, talking about how you really don't want to touch it with your head. You don't really want to have little kids around it like children, human children, and they lead with their head, so they're going to be touching it with their face, and they're a lot lighter than a goat like Hamish, so I just didn't want them learning that quite yet. Turn that off. All right, it's on. You're already leery, aren't you? It's okay, handsome. Hamish is already terrified of the doorway. I'm sorry. It's all right, handsome. Go back through your gate. It's okay. Yeah, he touched it with his tail that time. Good job. That's what I wanted him to do. Okay. Havoc's like, what the hell happened to you, man? Just eat the grass and ignore the fence, okay? Good boy. Havoc still hasn't tested it. I've been out here for almost 45 minutes watching him just graze, which is nice, but it's also, we do have this really cold north wind and he hasn't tested the fence yet. I don't exactly want him to test the fence without me here because I don't want him to freak out and get tangled. Something could go bad, so I guess I'll brave it. Guess while we wait on Havoc to touch the fence, I can do a couple things in the greenhouse since it's right next to that pen. So tonight and tomorrow night, the low is supposed to be 21, which is pretty low for our area. Not necessarily for this time of year, but for the temperatures that we've been having. We've been having a really excessively warm spring, like I think a lot of people have had. And so that's what my plants are used to. I do have a couple volunteer tomato plants that are in my green stock, and it stays nice and warm in the greenhouse for the most part. But to be honest, 20 degrees is really pushing it as far as keeping freezing temperatures out of here. I don't think I'm willing to risk those volunteers in order to take a chance with them, at least not for all of them. Maybe I'll leave one or two and we'll see how they do. But I am gonna bring most of those volunteers inside. I'm gonna transplant them into these pots. After the freeze anyways, I do have to re-amend that green stock to put in some more strawberry plants. I had the whole thing full of strawberry plants last year, and during that really cold winter blast that we had in December, all but one of them died, which isn't super shocking. That was -30 wind chill. That killed everything, even my frost tolerant stuff in the greenhouse. We'll go out in a little bit and take a peek at what's growing in the raised bed garden. I have a lot of frost tolerant things in the raised bed garden, but when a plant is used to warmer temperatures, even if the plant variety itself is supposed to be able to handle, you know, a decent amount of frost or freezing, if that particular plant hasn't been exposed to it, it can absolutely be damaged and even killed when it is suddenly exposed to super low temps. So a couple days ago, the temperature was, I think, 24 for a low, and I actually had some of my frost tolerant stuff die. So down here, there's a couple of little seedlings. Whoop. See that one there? Trying to save these little guys. All right, so I've got my 4 babies, and we'll bring these inside, and I've left a couple in the green stock. We'll leave those there for science, just see how they do. Where's our Havoc? I didn't hear any noise. Where's Havoc? Oh yeah, he's in his house. Havoc! Did you get zapped, sir? Are you okay? If he did get zapped, I didn't hear anything. So, but Havoc's in his house right now. So I think I am gonna step away a little bit. Elpis. Elpis especially has changed a lot since becoming bred. She's now 3 months bred, so 2 months to go, and she's already gained a lot of depth, and her little baby udder is coming in, and I really like how it looks.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah?
There's leftover asparagus cheddar soup.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's not like a ton, but it could be good mixed in with the noodles.
Yeah, I agree with you. I did recently buy some blueberry plants. It would probably be a good idea to bring those inside as well. So a few weeks ago, I had planted quite a few peas along this trellis here, and they've come up, but what I think is birds have come along and have eaten off every little leaf off of every single little pea plant, and not all of them are surviving well through it. So I kind of expect this cold snap plus the stress of being picked apart by the birds might do these guys in. I'm really not going to go out of my way to try to cover them with straw or anything just because of the damage they already have. Honestly, it's easier just to re-sow some peas if these guys don't make it through. See, this is frost damage here. Isn't that crazy? And so is this. That's frost damage. But I think this kale is gonna be okay. I did notice that a couple of our broccoli plants have these little mini heads on them. I don't know if this one had started to bolt, possibly. See in there, there's like the tiniest little hint of a head coming in that little plant. So the garden does have a little bit of damage from the frosts that we've had over the last few days. Because I do have so many plants that do look okay, I am willing to risk not putting out this weed fabric. The wind really has slowed down since the sun started going down, but I think I'm gonna leave them. Like I said the other night, the low was 24, and that's when everything got that damage. Coming up, the low is 21, so it's just a couple degrees or a few degrees lower than they have seen before. So I'm willing to risk it just to see how they do. So it's the next day, and as expected, everything looks pretty much as it did yesterday. So I'm glad I didn't kind of waste the energy on covering it with the frost fabric. But this is the real hard part about growing brassicas in the fall and in the spring here. Growing brassicas at all is really difficult because we have so much high and low, and it's all really variable. There really isn't much constant, except for the one thing that we do know is summer is hot. We do have a really long growing season, and so I can't complain too much. The frost-free growing season here is about 180 to 185 days long, so we have a lot going for us as far as that goes. But cold weather stuff, it's a little harder to get a harvest out of. I still don't know if I'm actually going to be getting a harvest out of those broccolis, but the purple cauliflower has always been good to me, and it looks like it's doing really well, and so I think we'll at least have that as far as brassicas this year, and I'm also rooting for the cabbage to do well. I did notice that the blackberries are starting to leaf out. This is our second year with this blackberry patch, and most of these canes grew like wildfire last season. So what I have recently learned when I looked about how to prune blackberry canes is that you'll get fruit on second year canes. So most of this growth, like I mentioned, grew last year. That was the first year. And so these canes here are now going to be on their second year. And so we should get a nice crop of blackberries this year. And apparently it's going to spill out into the yard, which I'm not complaining about. Hi, Mama's girls. Hello. Hi, Appy. Calamity. Hi, Mars. So I still haven't seen Havoc test the fence, but it seems like it's going pretty well. They've been relatively unsupervised with the fence all day today. I did close off this section overnight so that they couldn't get out into it. But I think we're really gonna like this system. So you may notice I did not mow a path to place the fence. That would have been more ideal, to mow a path so that it wouldn't ground out so hard on the lower strands. But one of the reasons I went with this particular fencing, this one is the, I forget what it's called, I'll put it in the words down below. This one is designed to handle a little bit more weed pressure in the summertime. When we have a decent amount of rain, which we usually do most years, I have to mow my yard and all of our like access pathways twice a week. If I don't mow it, it is, you know, 8, 9, 10 inches tall. No kidding. It grows really, really rapidly, maybe possibly more rapidly than I'm going to be able to move the fence. So I wanted something that's going to be able to hold up to that. I don't know if you can see that back there, but that is a living tomato seedling. Some of this is grass, but there's a tomato seedling back there too. Hi, babes. How are you? How you doing, sir? I'm doing good. So So we still have another month before our estimated last frost date. Here in Zone 7B in southwestern Kentucky, our estimated last frost date is around April 19th. So we are probably still gonna see another frost or two, maybe not, but I need to plan for it. I just really hope that it's not anywhere near 20 degrees like it was this time. The girls are grazing a little bit right now, but they don't have near the amount of grass that they really need. I'm still feeding hay a tiny bit, and I am feeding a little bit of alfalfa pellets, so we really want to bring on the warmth and get this grass growing, that's for sure.